soda. Ruby boys, they know us. All fast money, no slow bucks.
What is going on, you guys? Brandon here, aka Browadis, and I don't know how you guys don't get enough of me. This is my third video of today, my second on my NBA channel, and I already posted a vlog on my main. How do you guys not get tired of seeing my face? But anyways, I'm here to bring you guys the Milwaukee Bucks. Why did I say that so weird? Milwaukee Bucks season preview / predictions. And last year's lottery team, Milwaukee Bucks, who did not make the playoffs, and they're looking to get back in that Eastern Conference playoff party. They're looking to because they made it the year before, you know, they're looking to build on last year, which was a losing season, but they're looking to get back into that playoff dance. So we're gonna get to first, let's start with their draft. They ended up surprising almost everybody and taking Thon Maker that early. Don't get me wrong, Thon Maker is an exceptional player. A lot of scouts were high on him, but he was projected to go later in the first round or maybe early second round, and boom, Milwaukee comes in with a top 10 pick and takes him. And there are questions about his age. A lot of rumors have surfaced about how he might not really be as young as some people think he is. I think they say he's like 19 years old, and there's some rumors that are out that he's 23 or 24, and that makes a huge difference because 3 or 4 years might not be big in a regular life, but 3 or 4 years of basketball age is a huge difference. And I actually spoke with the Milwaukee Bucks vice president down in Vegas when I was at the Summer League, and you know, he was open to talk for a while because nobody really knew who he was. So when I knew who he was, I recognized him. Don't ask me how the hell I knew, but I did. And so he was free to talk because nobody was bothering him. And I asked him, first thing I asked him was, I said, no offense, because you know more than I do, but why did you guys take Thon Maker so early? Wasn't he supposed to go later in the draft? And you know what he told me? He said everybody said the same thing about Giannis Antetokounmpo, and look how he turned out. So I just started laughing. I was like, yeah, you're right. And then I asked him, I said, how old is Thon Maker really? And you know what he told me? I can't believe he even told me this. He said, we really don't know. He said, we just love his game. So the Milwaukee Bucks vice president told me that. So anyways, that was their draft pick, their surprise draft pick. They have high hopes for him, not for this upcoming season, but for the future, because he is one of the youngest, I don't know how old he is, players in this draft class, but he's also one of the rawest. He has one of the most untapped potential. He's one of those players where you might not even see court time from him in year 1 or year 2, and you got to wait a couple years not to see how he develops, just to even see him play. So Milwaukee Bucks fans, he might be a huge piece for your future, but don't expect too much from him his rookie season. Now let's get going with their roster. So in case you don't know, they just traded Michael Carter-Williams for Tony Snell. They traded him to the Chicago Bulls, obviously getting Tony Snell back from Chicago. We'll get more into that trade later. Let's go over their point guard position. So officially, the point guards on this team are Matthew Dellavedova and Jason Terry. But in case you haven't been keeping up with the Bucks, they are actually making the Greek Freak, the near 7-foot Giannis Antetokounmpo. First of all, excuse me if I'm saying that name wrong. I doubt anybody could say it right. But they're making Giannis their starting point guard, which is incredible. He is nearly 7 feet tall. And you know, you see Durant sometimes play point forward. You see Carmelo sometimes bringing the ball up. You see LeBron bringing the ball up, obviously playing a lot of point forward. You know, he's 6'10", 6'9". Carmelo's around 6'9", 6'8". Kevin Durant's nearly 7 feet tall. But we have never seen anything like this where, at least not recently, where they are full-time starters. Full-time starting point guard, which is just crazy. And if you had any questions or doubts about that, throw those doubts out the window after they traded Michael Carter-Williams, who was their point guard, and didn't get a point guard in return. That just shows how real they are about this experiment. That just shows how serious they are about slotting in the fucking... I'm sorry, that's just crazy. The near 7 foot tall Giannis Antetokounmpo at point guard. Could you imagine him guarding Steph Curry, guarding Eric Bledsoe, guarding Russell Westbrook for a whole game? That is insane. So that's going to be really, really interesting. And even if the Milwaukee Bucks end up being a bad team, that is one thing for sure to draw a lot of attention. So They have Matthew Dellavedova and Jason Terry at that point guard position, but they've said that they're going to start Giannis there at shooting guard. Now, here's where they're a little weak. Sad injury to Chris Middleton, because he is an exceptionally good young player. He showed a ton of promise last season. He showed much more than even Chris Middleton fans expected of him. He was a key piece to this year. He was a key piece to their future. And in case you guys didn't know, he hurt himself pretty badly. I think it was last month, earlier in the training camp, and he's going to miss a majority of the season, if not the whole entire season. I think he'll be back for the end, but that's a huge hit for a team who had playoff hopes. They're a team who kind of went into free agency and kind of built this roster to make the playoffs this year, not to tank and lose for a pick. So Chris Middleton stepping out is a huge loss, and obviously hope the best for his recovery. So Chris Middleton, at least for the first 6 months of the season, gone, done, injury recovery. So then they were going to start Rashad Vaughn at guard. And I mean, he's not a bad player, but a starting two guard on a playoff team, I don't know about that. So they went out and they traded, like I said, they traded Michael Carter-Williams, who, I mean, this reminds me so much of Tyreke Evans. So first let me continue with that. They traded Michael Carter-Williams for Tony Snell. And let me just say, Tony Snell was not a fan favorite in Chicago. Chicago fans did not like Tony Snell that much. They complained about his ability to play the game. They did not like him as a player. So for Michael Carter-Williams, who just won Rookie of the Year a couple years ago, such a promising first season, such a promising first game. I don't know if you guys remember against the Miami Heat. It reminds me so much of Tyreke Evans. It reminds me of having an exceptional rookie year, having so much promise and potential. And, after 1 year, you're like, holy shit, this guy's going to be an all-star. This guy's going to be a multi-time all-star. And all of a sudden, after your rookie year, you just go downhill. That happened to Tyreke Evans, who's in New Orleans now. And it seems like it's happening to Michael Carter-Williams. He was traded a couple years back at the trade deadline to Milwaukee. And he just has not really performed. So they dumped him for a player who Chicago wasn't even going to use. They dumped him for a player who literally was not Chicago's favorite player. And Chicago in return got somebody who won Rookie of the Year, who had so much promise, and has kind of just like fell off the map, which is weird to me. That has to be a mental thing, because when you've shown and proven that you can compete and play at the NBA level, and you just start getting worse without any serious injury, in my opinion, that has to be mental. That has to be in your head, because that's just really weird. So Michael Carter-Williams is gone. And like I said, losing a point guard just proves to me how serious they are about starting Giannis at that spot. So they actually announced they're going to start Tony Snell at shooting guard. So I guess that's an upgrade over Rashad Vaughn, but that's still not the best move for them. But I guess all they need is spacing, because in case you didn't know, they have a really big team and they don't have too many shooters. So that's gonna help them, I guess. I'm not sure. That was a confusing move. I'm not gonna say who won or who lost that trade, because neither of those players haven't even played a single regular season game for their team. So we gotta wait on that. But Tony Snell starting two guard, and then you have Jason Terry backing him up, maybe Rashad Vaughn backing him up while Chris Middleton is hurt. I'm not sure how many minutes Jason Terry can play, because he's getting up there in age. As small forward now, here's where things get interesting, because Giannis is slotted in at that small forward position. But unless they play Dellavedova in the starting lineup, I don't know who's going to start at small forward. I guess they could start Jabari at small forward and go... Yeah, so this is confusing. I guess unless they bring Dellavedova into the starting lineup, I think they're going to start Jabari at small forward, even though he was most effective at the small forward as power forward. I guess you could start Jabari at small forward, and then you have Greg Monroe at power forward and Miles Plumlee at center. God, that spacing is horrible. The Milwaukee Bucks need shooters, but that's exactly what they did. They signed Mirza Teletovic, who was a former Phoenix Suns player just last season. He actually broke the NBA record, most threes in NBA history off the bench. I love Mirza. Honestly, when he signed with Milwaukee, he left the Suns, I was actually pretty hurt. I was sad for a couple of days. Milwaukee fans, you're gonna love him. Not only is he a good player, but he's a really, really nice guy. He's a locker room type of guy. Players love him, fans love him. Milwaukee fans, you guys are gonna love Mirza Teletovic. Take that from a Suns fan, and I'm sure Brooklyn Net fans will tell you the same exact thing. I love Mirza in Phoenix. He was only here for 1 year. I guess the Suns and him just went different directions, but he played really well for the Suns. So I would like to see him start just because of floor spacing reasons. Greg Monroe, I don't know. I think they're going to have to trade him. So the Milwaukee Bucks, if you can't tell, they have a lot of pieces. I just don't know how it's going to fit, especially the big men. They have so many big men that could play, but I don't know if there's enough minutes to go around. Greg Monroe, Miles Plumlee, Jabari Parker, Mirza Teletovic, John Henson. A lot of people are forgetting John Henson. And then the top 10 pick that they just took this year, Thon Maker, who is not going to play that much this year, but he's still an important part of their future. So you have 6, and that's, I don't know. And then they also traded Tyler Ennis for Michael Beasley. So they also have Michael Beasley, who people seem to forget. They just did that a couple weeks ago. If it were up to me, I don't know. Nobody knows how exactly the Milwaukee Bucks are going to bring out their players, bring out their roster. They just know they have a lot of talent. If it were up to me, I guess I'd start Giannis at point guard, Tony Snell at shooting guard, Jabari at small forward, Mirza at the 4, and Plumlee at center for defensive purposes. I don't know where Greg Monroe, and that makes sense. They've been trying to trade Greg Monroe. They've been trying to get rid of Greg Monroe, and nobody seems to take him. And I don't think it has anything to do with his contract. His contract isn't bad. A lot of people think teams haven't been trading for him because he has a large contract. It's not that. It's just that the game is evolving. The game is turning into more of a stretch 4 type of game. It's turning into more your big men need to shoot threes rather than bang in the post. And that's exactly what Greg Monroe does. He bangs in the post. He has little hook shot. He has little post game. He doesn't shoot the ball, which is why I think it makes more sense to play Mirza Teletovic and Jabari Parker in there, especially when this team needs spacing. You know, Giannis doesn't have the best jump shot. Tony Snell is inconsistent with his jumper. Plumlee obviously can't shoot the fucking ball. Trust me, I'm a Suns fan. I don't know. So, I wouldn't be surprised if they trade Greg Monroe. They've been trying to trade him. So that's going to be interesting. That's an interesting development. The Milwaukee Bucks have a ton of bigs and not that much minutes to go around. So that's going to be an interesting development. Don't be surprised if some of them get traded or if some of them end up riding the bench despite having a lot of talent. So here are my final thoughts on the 2016-2017 Milwaukee Bucks. Jason Kidd, good head coach. I feel like he was wrongfully let go in Brooklyn. They didn't give him too big of a chance. They need to be creative with this lineup because this lineup is a ton of talent, a ton of depth, but the pieces don't really fit. So Jason Kidd needs to be creative in seeing, are they going to go big? Are they going to go small? Let me give it off to this team. This team has great defensive potential. Every player on this team has length. They're long. They could defend, except Greg Monroe. Greg Monroe, despite being 7 feet, he's not a rim protector. He's not going to protect the rim. Nobody's afraid to take it at the rim and drive it to the hole when Greg Monroe is guarding the rim. So don't let the 7-foot label fool you. There's a lot of 7-footers who just can't protect the rim, whether that's because their arms are short, they're not the most athletic players. So Greg Monroe, exceptional offensive player. He has a nice offensive game, but he just can't shoot the ball from outside and he can't protect the rim. So I think he's a little bit of a liability for this team that needs shooting. I think Mirza is going to make a really, really big difference. A really big difference. They got to find a way to stretch the floor, whether that means giving more minutes to Jason Terry, having Matthew Dellavedova somewhere in the starting lineup camping out at the 3-point line because he could shoot the 3-ball if he's open. Maybe giving some minutes even to Michael Beasley, who could at least somewhat shoot the 3. He was efficient in his time in Houston, way more efficient than his first couple of years in the league, way more efficient than his 1 year in fucking Phoenix. So I don't know. I like the roster. I like the players. I like how much depth and how much talent they have. I just think they need to make a few trades in the front court to really make this work. I think Jabari's going to have a huge year. A lot of people think because of his injury, some people are labeling him a bust or maybe not hyping him up as much hype as he was getting when he came out of the draft. I'm still really, really big on Jabari Parker. I think he could still be that franchise player. I think him and Giannis going forward make a scary duo along with Chris Middleton. I think they have nice pieces for the future. The only question I would give this team, because their defense is going to be great, their length is great. They're pesky. They beat the Warriors last year. They also beat the Cavs. They were actually the only playoff team to beat the Warriors and Cavs in one season. Not the playoff team, the only non-playoff team to beat the Warriors and Cavs in one season. So, with that being said, I think the Bucks improve. I'm going to give them 38, 39 wins. I'm going to give them close to 500. Whether that's a playoff team in the East or not, I don't know how the bottom of the East is going to shape up. I think Milwaukee is one of those confusing teams where they're going to be in that huge group of playoff teams trying to sneak into the Eastern Conference playoffs with those 6th, 7th, and 8th seed. I think they're going to be right with New York, Orlando, Chicago, Atlanta. I think Milwaukee has bumped itself up into that tier, and it's going to come down to the last couple games to see whether or not they can make the playoffs. I'm not fully counting them out as a playoff team, but I'm not fully locking them in. I think they're going to win about 38, 39, maybe 40 games. If that gets you into the playoffs, it does. If it doesn't, I think they're going to barely miss it in 9th or 10th seed. Like I said, for the last time, I like this roster. I like the pieces. I just don't know how they're going to fit. So I feel like they're going to make a trade, and if they don't, I think that's a mistake. They should trade away some of their bigs and get some value in the backcourt. I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see how they could space the floor. Other than that, they have no question marks on defense, and this is going to be a fun team to watch. I think Milwaukee has a potential to make the playoffs. It might be 1 year too early, but no, I'm going to actually watch a lot of Milwaukee Bucks games. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and let me know what you guys think of the Milwaukee Bucks.